There we go.
Welcome to the UFC podcast. We've got UFC Denver this weekend. No Grant this week, so we're going to power through these. But we've got some picks. We've got, our takes for every single fight on this card. We've got an extra edge to look out for because of the elevation that exists in Denver. So I think it should be a pretty fun card. We've had, I think, 4 canceled fights and a couple of late notice step ups. So going to be interesting kind of tracking where these fighters have been in their fight camps, if they've been in camp at all because of these short notice step ups. So should be a fun one.
And I'm here to click around. So first fight we're starting off with is we got Charles Johnson, if I'll actually show the other fighter first. Charles Johnson. First, Josh Van. Jackson, walk us through how we should be investing for this fight here.
So this is the first time I've seen these prices, and out of the gate, I'm just going to say at cost on PredictionStrike, Joshua Van is an amazing investment. Like, if you're not in on Josh Van right now, probably like UFC is probably the best for long holding people without any real concern of like losing money and only gaining over time. And it's like Josh Van is 22 years old, and he's right now less than half the price of Charles Johnson. So great time to get in on Van for a long-term hold here. I do think it is definitely going to be a test for him. Style-wise, Josh Van, solid striker, aggressive, relatively powerful, good scrambling and takedown skills. He's great, not the best anywhere, but very, very well-rounded. He doesn't really have a traditional base. He came up fighting MMA, so he's one of those kind of new wave guys. He's coming off a win over Felipe Buens, who is debuting, I believe. And Charles Johnson, his opponent, busy technical striker, just okay takedown defense. His high striking volume kind of sets him apart from people. Throws a lot of punches, 5 significant strikes per minute. And he can do that for a whole 15-minute fight. And like I said, takedown defense has kind of been his weakness. He has, honestly, I'd say like on paper, it looks worse than it actually is, because earlier in his career, he kept getting matched up against really nasty wrestlers. And now he's on a 2-fight win streak after getting some better matchups that are kind of more suited to him. And while this is short notice, Josh Van did just finish a full fight camp for Tagir Lambekov at 303, and Tagir just missed weight. So, like I said, going to be a good test for Van. He's ready to go, or at least he should be with that recent camp. He's only seen 2 decisions in his entire career, and I think Charles Johnson could definitely bring him his third with how tough he is. And Charles could even win this fight. He's no stranger to winning on short notice step-ups. My gut kind of leans Charles Johnson. I'm at these prices, I'm not touching him, and I'm all over Josh Van.
Fair enough. All right. So if you're in another market, it sounds like to go with Charles Johnson, but if you're investing on PredictionStrike, Josh Van is the wild man's game. Now, moving on to the next match here, we've got Cody Brundage versus a name I'm not going to try to mispronounce here. So let us know how you got against ARA versus Cody Brundage. Who do you got in this one?
I like that, ARA. Wait, let me look up what Abdul's actual nickname is.
Here, okay. And
it's Judo Thunder. That's sick. But yeah, Abdul is a former judo practitioner turned MMA fighter. I think this is one of those fights that's going to be a short fight. Neither of these guys are really like cardio oriented. Both of them are headhunters to some extent. So this is one of those fights that I really think it's going to go inside the distance. If you're playing DFS or anything like that, I think you got to include one of these fighters. It's basically a pick 'em. So, on PredictionStrike, you can go either way, but short fight for sure here. Cody Brundage, heavy-handed, kill or be killed kind of guy. He's definitely going to be firing from the jump. High-level wrestling background, averages around 3 takedowns a fight. He is also only 30 years old, coming off a loss to Bo Nickel, where at one point, Bo Nickel, I don't know why I always say Nickel, I think it's because of the spelling, where at one point Bo shot a takedown and Cody brushed him off easily. Like, I think Cody is a really tough guy, really strong guy. just has questionable fight IQ. Like when he stepped up on short notice against Cedric Dumas, jumped guillotine a few times where he shouldn't have. Does that in a lot of his fights. Could use work in the IQ department. Abdul, powerful striker, also tends to headhunt. Will come out firing. He's always looking for that KO. High level judo guy, like I said, but hasn't really been his identity recently. He's gotten a couple knockouts and has kind of moved away from tossing people around and more into punching people in the face. Really talented. Doesn't always use all of his tools. Kind of like I said, like he's shying away from his judo background. And he's coming off a loss to Joe Pyfer, where he had to have been expecting a striking match, but was met with a bunch of takedown attempts, and he was basically defending takedowns that whole fight. Both guys dangerous. Both are going to look for finishes. I think I'm going to go with Cody, slightly better price here on PredictionStrike and in other markets. I think he's the more well-rounded fighter inside the cage, at least. He'll make bad decisions sometimes, but does have insane power in his hands and is always coming forward. And like I said, this is going to be a short one. I think whoever gets that first step and starts putting in the work early is going to get this one done. So I like Cody Brundage by an early finish here.
Right on. All right. So Cody Brundage gets the lean for Sir Jackson here at a slight discount on PredictionStrike. Now, moving on to the next belt, we have here Julian Rosa, the Racer, versus Christian Rodriguez. How do we see C-Rod versus Julian Rosa? I want to say Christian Rodriguez is a really underrated fighter, right? Or am I mistaken?
I don't know about underrated, but I will say on paper, like he looks a lot better for like the size name he is, because he has 3 wins in a row basically over 3 prospects the UFC was looking to push. Like it was Rosas, it was Simon, and it was one other fighter, like 3 big young, like good young prospects they were trying to push. So he has a little bit of hype right now. Those were all decision wins, though, I will say, against very, very young fighters. But I have seen a lot of people on him. I do think he ends up winning this one. Very slick striker, solid movement and speed, decent takedown defense at 66%. He has been taken down a lot of times in his career, though. Arosa is definitely the more experienced fighter of the two, larger for sure. Christian is moving up in weight because he was having trouble making weight in his own class. And Arosa uses his length well on the feet and on the ground, dangerous everywhere. Coming off a win over Ricardo Ramos, where he snatched up a guillotine early into the fight. And I am definitely curious to see how Christian handles like the veteran wherewithal of Rosa after fighting 3 debuts or prospects in a row. And Christian's not dangerous. He wins. He's been winning these fights, has solid technique, very composed guy. But he's been winning by decision. And like in other markets, I think Christian is more than like a 2-1 favorite, which I think is kind of wide. This is definitely the most experienced fighter he's ever fought. Weight misses definitely don't, point him in the right direction. So I think I'm leaning Christian here. I personally wouldn't put my money on this fight. I'm just going to sit back and watch it. Let's see what Christian can do against a tough veteran in Julian Erosa.
All right. We'll see how this goes. You have Jackson's lean there. Now moving on to the next bout, Gabriel Bonfim versus Ane Lusa. I remember you telling me a little bit about this fight beforehand, but tell the people how they should be targeting this fight.
For sure. And I do want to point out that I think so far we've picked the cheaper fighter as the best investment, like 3 fights in a row now. So it seems like shaping up to be a lot of value on PS here. But Bonfim, yeah, what is Lusa's price?
Lusa is a bit cheaper on this one.
Okay. So yeah, that kind of reflects most markets, I would say. Bonfim seems to be around a 2.5-1 favorite last time I checked, but he's a solid striker, high-level boxing credentials, really good BJJ, well-rounded despite being pretty patient. he's never seen despite being patient, he's never seen a decision. He's technical, composed, but gets it done early when he gets it to the ground, which is what he's trying to do ultimately. He works for positions and then gets to submissions once he has that position secured. Coming off what I would consider to be a really bad loss to Nick Dalby, where he dominated that fight early, gassed out, had no answer late. And that's something to look at here because we're in Denver, one of the highest elevation UFC settings, and he gassed out and lost to Nick Dalby. And I'll let you know now, Nick Dalby is not Angelusa. He's worse. He's taken on Ange, striker, decent volume, solid power, great chin, nice low kicks, manages range well, good jab. Can struggle for sure when you get a fighter that stays in his face and is aggressive. But his high striking volume helps him keep people away. He lands around 6 significant strikes a minute. 90% takedown defense, and actually just gave up his first ever UFC takedown in his fight with Brian Battle, where he ended up taking a no contest because of an eye poke. Bonfim is the biggest favorite on the card. He was also meant to dominate Nick Dalby last fight, was probably one of the biggest favorites on that card as well. Ange, good fighter. His 2 losses in the UFC I would call credible. Gabe is definitely the overall better fighter. Doesn't have cardio like we saw in his last fight. He was supposed to come in and finish that guy. He's trying to do the same thing here, and Angelusa doesn't get finished. So I think Bonfim wins. He is the more dangerous, better fighter. But he had no defense in his loss to Dalby. He had no cardio. High-level fighters should be able to lose and learn from those mistakes, so I'm going to trust Bonfim here, I think. But Angelusa is not a cakewalk. This is another one that I'd be very wary of putting any finances on outside of, just fantasy stuff, because this is going to be a close one. I don't think the odds reflect how close this one is properly. So I have Bonfim by a hair.
Okay, I like that. All right. So be wary of the Lusa in case he gets loose here, because the price advantage you get on PredictionStrike, but Bonfim seems to be the sharper play. Now we move on to the Crimson Chin, and that of Drew Dober here. Hopefully it doesn't get cracked against Gene Silva. So how should we navigating this one, Jackson?
This is definitely going to be a striker versus striker exchange. Another one that I think, or fight rather, not exchange. But this is another one I think that is going to end early. Drew, super fun striker. Definitely take one to give one kind of guy. Good chin, nice power, willingness to brawl. Definitely technically sound. Doesn't stop him from going crazy at times with some exciting attacks. 56% takedown defense. So not the best there. Coming off a decision loss to Renato Moicano, where he basically just gave it up late. It's kind of his fight to lose. Was looking good early there. Jean Silva, also a powerful striker. Loose and creative, fun, just like Drew. This is going to be an awesome fight because of their styles. Creativity is fun in his fighting, gets him into some weird positions sometimes. He's also really good defensively, a ton of power. I really like Jean Silva. He just finished Air Jourdain at UFC 303, who I think is a pretty legitimate fighter. And he's fresh off of fighting. I feel like, or actually I know for a fact that more often than not, these guys that do a quick 1-card turnaround after a card, don't tend to do that well. They lose more often than not. Damon Blackshear got smoked. Lupe Godinez lost her fight when she tried to do 2 cards in a row. But I think Jean could get this one done. I think it's going to be striker versus striker. And I think with full camps, Jean Silva wins this one without question. I think the only question really is him doing this insanely quick turnaround. And yeah, it seems like the sharp money is on Silva this week too. He opened as the massive dog. He's now a favorite. So yeah, I like Jean here, despite this quick turnaround.
All right. Fair enough. He said he's on the side of Jean versus Drew Dober here, so you get a little bit of a price advantage on Sir Jean. So the Crimson Chin shall be cracked down. Now moving on to the next one, we got Santiago da versus Muslim Salikov, because I am not going to try to mess that name up further than I have. So
Ponzinibbio.
Ponzinibbio. There we go.
Yeah.
How do we see this fight going down? Isn't Salikov the more intriguing prospect? I've not heard of this Santiago guy. I am the more casual between the two of us. He has fought 37 fights, so seems like he's pretty well ventured.
Yeah, this is kind of a weird one. I don't really know why it's like this is the fight that's right before the main card. But both of these guys are coming off losses. Santiago, good striker, stays outside the pocket with clean striking, does a good job of managing that range. That's kind of what he wants to do. He doesn't really have that raw power, but he has very high volume, will work in some TKOs because of that. He is coming off a loss to Kevin Holland, where he was chasing the KO too hard and got finished. Muslim, a striker who hits super hard, has some wrestling in his back pocket if he needs it. Almost every strike he throws is a significant strike. All of them he throws with intent. Solid takedown defense and offense. Pretty good striking. Just a well-rounded guy. A heavy-handed striker, more so than not, though. Coming off a loss to Randy Brown, he's on a 2-fight skid now. Both these guys, dangerous, well-rounded. Definitely think it's going to be an even fight here, despite Ponzinibbio being the clear favorite in most markets. I think ultimately Santiago is going to own the striking exchanges between the two. Muslim does not have the best cardio, and if the fight goes long enough, I definitely think Muslim will fade. He needs to get it done in the first or, within 1.5, I think, if he's going to have a chance at getting the job done, which I just think is favorable for Ponzinibbio. He's got pretty good cardio. I just think elevation is going to be a big problem for a striking match between these two for Muslim.
Sounds good. Sounds like Ponzinibbio's got an unlock, and I need to learn that name. So, moving on to the actual main event here, we got Tracy Cortez versus Rosa Namajunas. Wasn't the most exciting fight from Rose last time, if I remember correctly. So, hopefully for a little more exciting here. I see a massive price discrepancy, so I want to know how to walk through this one.
Wait, what was Rose's price? Sorry.
Rose is sitting here at $12.87.
Oh, wow.
And Tracy's at $3.95.
I mean, that is such a weird spot for me because obviously that's the best value on the card if you're on the Tracy side of things. I don't know. I think, dude, I still think Rose. Like, I'm pretty confident in my girl Rose here. Former champ, kind of has bounced around weights. Has been at this 125-pound weight for a while now. Definitely the more well-rounded fighter in this matchup, as she is in most of her fights. Good striker, nice wrestling, BJJ, good footwork in her striking. Obviously, we know Rose has some wins over some all-time great female fighters like Wei Li, Jessica Andrade. Can't argue with her accomplishments. She is coming off a close decision win, like Wells said, over Amanda Ribas. She was taken down 4 times in that one. And I think if Tracy Cortez is to win, that's going to be her key to success here, is being active, shooting takedowns. But I do think there's a bit of a difference between like Amanda Ribas takedowns and Tracy Cortez takedowns, because Ribas, she doesn't shoot takedowns. She's just a massive woman, like super strong, and she just throws you down. Like, she's not shooting traditional wrestling takedowns like doubles, singles, like what Tracy Cortez shoots. And Rose has great takedown defense, so I think it's going to be a bit different there. I don't think she's going to have as much trouble with Tracy as she did with Ribas, despite Tracy Cortez being wrestling oriented. Tracy Cortez spends 80% of her fights on top, and while she's on top, she's hit with 3 significant strikes a minute. So you could tell she kind of lets her guard down a little bit when she's in that upper position. Striking, technical, busy, doesn't have raw KO power. Clean takedowns, like I said, great control time when she's on top. Like, she's always on top during her fights. Doesn't submit people like crazy. She does have some good BJJ, though. More of a wrestler with control time and jiu-jitsu, and kind of just tries to win off of points with that control time. Coming off a win over Jasuda Vicious. Striking looked great in that one. But when I think I honestly, it really doesn't matter here at all, because that can only hurt her. If she gets too overconfident in her striking, this girl's not going to be able to strike with Rose Namajunas. She has to stick with the wrestling game plan if she wants a shot here. And knockouts kind of make people cocky a lot of the time, especially when you don't get them very often. Rose, I think she's going to be able to land her punches, mix in those kicks well. This fight was originally scheduled to be 3 rounds, I believe. Cortez was training for a 3-round fight ahead of this, and now she's in a 5-round fight that Rose has been prepping for, which I think definitely, especially at elevation, works against her. Rose, if they're going to keep it on the feet, for 5 rounds, she is easily going to win this fight. It's all about the ground game for Tracy Cortez. With that being said, Rose Namajunas is definitely my pick. I think the vet gets it done here.
Makes sense. I mean, it's hard to outside the price discrepancy, that's the other thing that makes this difficult.
Exactly. And I do think Tracy Cortez has a chance, which is why I was it's really still enticing, even though I like Rose to win this one.
Yeah. I don't know. We'll see how it plays out this weekend, though. It'll be a more interesting one to watch, especially with what you're talking about with the differences in elevations and so forth for all these different fights.
Yeah, I'm excited. And it's the effects of that will be 2x'd with all of these short notice fights with people who aren't in camps.
100%. All right. With that said, if you guys haven't already, make sure to subscribe to PredictionStrike, of course. Tell Jackson thank you for continuously helping you guys out with your UFC portfolios. And yeah, make sure to come back next time. Tell us which fight you like the most. And yeah, that's what I got. Jackson, anything?
Nah, as always, thank you guys for watching. We will have some picks on our TikTok and Instagram ahead of the fights on Saturday, so keep your eyes peeled for those. Otherwise, yeah, just appreciate you guys watching.
Okay. All right. Until next time, peace out.